The Front Row Back Row podcast is a show where two grad school buddies discuss physical therapy entrepreneurship. I helped guide a company to an 8-figure exit, and I'm now starting my own mobile company. Brian grew his mobile practice to 4 clinics, and he's now doing $1 million in revenue. Join us as we help you grow your own business. Hello and welcome to the Front Row Back Row podcast. My name is Dr. Owen Campbell, and with me, as always, is Dr. Brian Wolf, and together we are Physiogrowth. Physiogrowth is a mastermind group that we run. Well, we have Q&As weekly, but it's a full community with a bunch of like-minded entrepreneurs really looking to build and grow their practices, and it's something that we encourage you all to check out in the show notes in the description. And today is one of the constant topics we talk about in our mastermind group is paid advertising, right? So to set this up for a listener, I know a lot of people out there, maybe they've got a business going on word of mouth, maybe they're pretty busy most of the time, but if maybe some ebbs and flows in the business with word of mouth, depending on seasonality and things like that. So a lot of people will come at paid advertising for the first time for different reasons, right? So they may do it to get from 10 patients a week to 15 patients a week, all the way down to they may be using it to kind of shore up some issues in a slow season, all the way up to where Brian's at, where he's got 5 clinics and he's got to keep them full, right? So we are going to be talking paid advertising today. I know I just started two campaigns. Well, I started one campaign for me. We got one going for Physiogrowth. So it's a topic that Brian near and dear to his heart.
Exactly. Well, let's kind of talk. I mean, one of the things I want to talk about with this is, and I'm going to look at some of the stuff that we're doing. And I think there's different goals for different paid advertising. I think, full transparency, the goal of today's is not just talk about why paid advertising is good for you, blah, blah. It's to actually dive a little deeper into that particular thing. Now, remember, there are 4 major ways that you can get clients in the door. I shouldn't say that. In general, there's just 4 marketing things that work. Cold calling people, right? Creating social media content, creating referral partners, and then ultimately paid advertising. Paid advertising can be in so many different ways. Paid advertising can be, something where you pay for an advertisement in a calendar, or if you pay for advertising in, your son's local baseball team. It can be any of those things. So if you pay dollars, Google advertising, we've talked about that. I think today we'll talk a little bit about social media and Google, just because we'll talk about online paid advertising, right? Because I think right now, particularly me and Owen are talking a lot about that. And I think it's the reason why I like it so much and why it's near and dear to my heart is because it's passive. It's a way to grow eyeballs on your business without you actually having to do work actively, every day, every minute. So if I go to, the example I would give is if I'm doing something, and again, one of my 2025 goals, we didn't really talk about it, is actually go back and create more referral partners, because we've done a really good job as a company of doing that. But we actually have done the opposite, which is we zigged and everyone zagged, going to, they all wanted to market to MDs and market to docs and that kind of stuff. And we went the other direction and went more with organic, community-based stuff, went directly to customers and that kind of thing. Yeah. Did the online paid marketing thing, social media, website, all that piece, right? We went in that heavy. But then we also recognize one of the big things that we've done is we can get really good referral partners. Obviously, the 2 things combined now is a monster, right?
Well,
so
and I think you guys did the hard part. You did the hard part first, right?
Yes.
Where everyone in PT has been in that position where it's like, let's go to a doctor's office, maybe do a lunch, things like that. And I think you're seeing the fruits of your labor with that. Kind of going organic. So like, I guess the biggest question I have, right, is this is the biggest hang up I have is, it just doesn't work for me. Right.
Yeah.
Like that's something I hear from a lot of people. And honestly, I felt that way too. Right. Cause I had all my experience was in operations and growing clinics, right. And getting a clinic from nothing to something. And the marketing side, I didn't really touch a lot on. Right.
Yeah.
And now I have to do all the marketing. Right. And my thing is like, oh crap, I spent $200 and it didn't work. So paid advertising sucks. I could have used that $200 to buy t-shirts. Right.
Yeah.
So like, what do you tell somebody like that?
Yeah. I think that so there's a bunch of different ways. If we're going to look at let me ask you this to dive in a little deeper.
Yeah.
what specifically were you looking at that you said paid advertising doesn't work when you were talking about that? Because I know you now know that
Oh
paid
yeah.
advertising works, but what were you looking at beforehand?
Well, I just, I hear people say you need it. I had like ads that came up that were like, I can get 5 people in your clinic, and
Mm,
like, this, give me X amount of money and we'll be able to, drive business to your clinic. And it was like 20% or something of your ad spend or whatever.
yep.
So I didn't jump into that. I said, you know what? I just want to toy with this. Like, I have access to a business account. Let's figure it out. So, I went on the ads manager and I kind of put my little picture. I did a Canva up and I wrote, like, this is why you should come to my business. And then I think I did, like, I just wanted more people. So I just did a traffic ad, like something like that. Right. Where I was just like, okay, here. Right.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it fell flat on its face. I think it was like $200 down the drain.
Well, I think the aspect of talking about what I was just talking about is how ads work and how different advertising works, right?
Mhm.
So there are different advertising. So if I just look at what Meta has on here, and I think it's really good, is there's awareness ads, there's traffic ads, there's engagement ads, there's lead ads, there's app promotion ads, and there's sales ads, right? So what the fuck does that mean, right? Because that's the first
I
thing.
know,
And then
right? That's what I was
my
at.
goal, by the way, is to try and make Owen make all of these explicit. Have to have the warnings, by the way. That's
I was
part of
gonna say,
my
you
part
just
of my
throw
goal.
an F bomb in
Totally,
every single time.
every
At least it's
every
easy. I
time.
know it's always going to be explicit.
Exactly. So the adults should be listening to the show. You know what I mean? They should be good.
Yeah,
So
if you
when it
have your kids
comes to
listen to this, you're
when
good.
it,
Right.
yeah, kids are listening to this. That's weird. Actually, it might be cool. I mean, whatever. So anyway, awareness, traffic, engagement, leads, ad promotion, and sales. If we think about these different campaigns, understand that when you're throwing the $200, the $500, the $100, 1,000, whatever it is,
Mhm.
that you got to understand what you're looking for. So in this scenario, if I am doing an awareness or traffic or engagement ad, what I am paying for and paying in that scenario is more traffic to something, right? More awareness to my brand, more engagement. That's brand first marketing. If I'm doing brand first marketing, somebody like Nike doesn't look at all the advertising. They don't look at their Super Bowl commercial, and every year we hear about $2.5 million or $50 million or blah 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 for how many times. They don't look at that as spend on their product and then say how many shoes did we sell the next day. They don't look at
Yeah.
that. They look at the number differently. So the idea of how to look at your ROI, your return on investment for traffic, advertising, and awareness can't be done that way. You can't look at traffic, awareness, engagement, right? Any of that stuff, and look at, okay, when I get the money, like you got to look at it as the overall number,
Mhm.
right? So you got to look at it as like we were talking about in one of our episodes about our 2025 goals. You're looking at, okay, if I'm now going to do, if I'm currently doing 300 visits per year, and
Mhm.
then what I added was all this advertising dollars. And at the end of the year, I did 500, and all you added were awareness, traffic, engagement. Your marketing is working.
Yeah.
That's how you have to evaluate that. You can't look at it as $200, maybe $1,000. It doesn't work that way. Now,
I
you can do
I
it.
think it's
Sorry.
just
Go
to
ahead.
cut you off there. I think it's important that number is to for people to know that number is squishy, right?
Yes.
And to make it less squishy, it is really helpful that, like, when people come to you, just to ask them, "Hey, how'd you hear about us?" Right? It's why every doctor's office has that on, like, a third line on their paperwork, because it'll help you to make that a little bit less squishy for you to be like, you know, were those
But
200 patients time
but
or was it not? Yeah.
but at the same time, and I'm going to tell you a quick story on why you also can't rely on that line to
No, you
check the
can't.
ROI, right? Because I'll explain. Because people say to me, well, like I asked, they said they saw me on Facebook or blah blah blah, right? And sometimes I shouldn't say sometimes, all the time, people forget what the heck your ad said. All the time, right?
Uh-huh.
It happens. So when you think about an awareness, traffic, or engagement ad, it is not designed to give you a dollar. Like we talked about this 1 to 3 ad spend to ROI that you're looking to get. Those ads will not do that for you. What'll happen is, and I'll tell you the story. I had one of my first patients that it worked with. I remember being stoked when it happened because it was the first time I watched paid advertising work. I put something on Facebook, and this client of mine, she opted into one of my things, and I went to her house and I was working with her, and she paid me cash. And I asked her, I go, how did you hear about us? Because I didn't know who she was. And she said something like she saw something online or something. I can't remember what it was, right? Or maybe she said, she goes, oh, I just heard somebody so and so talked about you. But then what happened was I went to put her information into one of my systems and she was already there, which means she had to have come through something through social media, Google or whatever.
Yeah.
And so she didn't even tell me the right way. So the reason I say that is like,
it's true.
The way you got to look at advertising in the awareness, traffic, engagement category is that you're creating a marketing storm. You're creating a media storm. That's what you go with your SEO on your website. That's what you're doing. You're trying to create more awareness and traffic and engagement towards your website, towards your podcast, towards your Instagram, all that stuff. That's what you're doing. Meta is designed with those campaigns to do that. I also think this is why a lot of people in this industry of coaching that we're currently cracking into get sold I can help you with your advertising. And then what ends up happening is they get charged a buttload of money for awareness, traffic, and engagement stuff, and they don't feel like they're getting better, even though they probably are seeing more patients, but they ultimately could do this on their own, right? In that capacity. Now, where I think the value is on the marketing side is the leads and the sales side. So the leads, the way that works is we've talked about this. There's systems where now you can actually get name, phone number, emails, and I can create an offer around getting actual names and leads that are interested in that offer. And those people will pay me money. And by paying me money, now I can say they came through the Facebook stuff. They came and they actually worked with me. Boom. This is the ROI. And you can measure that directly. And that marketing can be super effective. We do that too for people on Physio Growth.
That's where I think we answer that question, right? Because I had that question at the beginning of the year. Now I can answer that question, right? Why am I not making money with Facebook ads or with any ads? Is that I'm not directly pushing it to leads, and I think that's a big mistake people make. And then also understanding that like there's ratios, right? Like you said something to me like if you get 10 followers through a traffic ad, you should get one person sign up for a program.
Yeah, like let me break this down.
What are some of those numbers that kind of help you not
let me break this down. Yeah, let me break this down for one of our clinics because I was actually just looking at this the other day and it was murdering it. This is a good ad campaign and how this works. So one of our clinics were running a program, and so basically what we did was I'm looking from today. I'm looking for basically the last 30 days. Basically, what we did was we spent a total of $2,355.71.
Okay.
Now we got from there for one clinic.
Okay.
We got 180 leads from that. Now, when I say leads, 180 leads, that's really good. That's $13.09 per lead. That's really good.
So leads mean people signed up and said, here's my number, here's my email.
Yes.
With the intention
here's my name, phone number, email. Exactly. With the intention. So the metric we've talked about that 50, 40, 50, the idea would be that 10% of those people you want to sell. Mm-hmm. So at 180 leads, if I sold 10% of those people, that'd be 18 people. Now, if I sold them a package, this package and offer was $599. If I sold 18 people at $599, that's $10,782. So if you're doing the math and following with me, that's $10,782 minus an ad spend of $2,355.71. So that's a profit in theory of $8,426.29.
That's almost a 5-to-1 return.
That is exactly what that means. Now, here's the deal. If you're not now, here's what's great about this as well. And why I think people fall on their face with paid advertising. You and I chatted about this, and we couldn't do this with Physio Growth because we don't charge enough. We only charge $99 per month. You're welcome, people. This is why people charge in some of the places like $8,000, $6,000, $5,000 for the program. Because if it takes $2,000 to get one client to sign up with them, they're getting that 3-to-1 ratio, and that's okay. We do not run advertising for Physio Growth like this because it doesn't make any sense. Otherwise, you have to charge $500, $600, $800, $1,000, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to this type of advertising, this is really great for physical therapy patients because if you got 18 physical therapy clients, Owen, right, at $1,000 a pop, that's $18,000. If I spent $3,000 and I got 18,000, I'd be really excited. And all you have to do is spend more money and you're going to make more. And that's how you scale.
I think that's another thing too. If people in that early phase, right, when they're maybe 1-2 practitioners, they're fighting payroll, right? And I think that you need to I think it's one of the more disciplined things you can do as a growing business is you
Yeah.
have to keep an ad account, right?
Yeah.
And even if it's small, but something that does not have any effect on your payroll, right? And people are like, well, I just spent $500. That means I can't pay myself as easily, or my kids can't go on this vacation or whatever. And then they're like, screw it, I'm not doing it, right? And I think one of the best, I learned this line from a business coach I know, and he said, you should create a whole separate account that just gets money every now and then, but that is your account for advertising and never touch it. Just like you wouldn't touch like a retirement account. And that's the only one you use to sign up for any ads. Because I think that's the other, kind of trepidation people get is like, well, that money also could have been, my kid's
You
Christmas
know what?
present.
Well, here's the other thing, right? And this is my argument that I would make. And I think in general, people have to be prepared to hit some rocks and shit, right? When they
Yep.
jump
Oh
off
yeah.
that cliff, right?
Yep.
And so I get it. $500. And here's the thing, right? That I think people don't understand is to get that type of return I was just talking about, I bet we didn't sell 18. I bet my guys, because like for me to do that, I know I can sell 18. I bet I can sell more than that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But to hand it over to some of my guys that work for me, I don't think they did. They probably sold 6, 7, 8. But I know that even in that system, they're covering that and then they're growing. But that's how you could scale a business. Is I got to eat shit a little bit too.
Yeah.
So the reality of that situation is I don't sympathize for the person who's like, well, that $500, I could do this for this.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reality is you're stifling the growth of your business to do that. Which, by the way, no judgment. That's fine. I didn't choose to do that. And that's why I scaled my fucking business to 5 clinics.
Yeah.
Right. So the reality is if you're going to do that, you also can't complain that you can't scale.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared to live on less to be able to make more in the future. And that's investing in your business, right? That's huge.
I think that's the big hurdle, right? Is that people kind of come up against this wall where they're busy, they have their own job, like all that, and then they basically have to decide, okay, are we going all in or not, right?
Yeah.
And you have to pare back your lifestyle a little bit, spend it more. Another year or two down the road, you see the fruits, but again, it's delayed gratification.
And by the way, a really good use if you're somebody who's listening to this and trying to figure out how to navigate paid advertising. In my opinion, Owen, if you're entrepreneurial, physical therapy, cash-based, insurance-based, whatever, and you're trying to get your arms around this, to spend $99 a month to work with us at Physio Growth to figure that out makes a shit ton of sense. Don't go out to dinner one day and then go do that and learn. Because like Owen talked about,
takeout, man. Other people forget dinner.
Yeah, exactly. As Owen had talked about, one of the things about doing this with us is ultimately as you scale your business, as you grow, what ends up happening is now you're feeling more confident in paid advertising and the thing pays for itself. That's what it does. So the reality is it's so simple. Like I said, it's just a no-brainer in that way for us. But again, this is what we teach people how to do because it's the math I just walk people through. If you learn how to do it properly, you can do it over and over and over again. And that's what ended up happening is I just got to a point where I realized I could do it really well on my own. I wanted to do it on my own. I found it to be fascinating. And, then I outsourced to other people and I realized they weren't very good at it. And that got frustrating for me as well. So I think one of the things that is really helpful is how to keep learning how to market your business so it can grow. And we didn't even talk about Google ads, but I'll touch on that real quick.
Yeah.
Google ads are also part of that traffic awareness. And I think that Google advertising is actually even more important to spend money on from a traffic awareness perspective, because if people are looking for physical therapy, they're going to start with Google and especially in private practice. So physical therapy near me, physical therapy, owning those domains. So we've talked about SEO, we've talked about Google advertising. To me, that's a smart place to start first, but they are also traffic engagement. So you're not going to see your ROI back, but just think of it as money that's going out the door that essentially is driving more traffic to your website that's potentially driving more of that storm to you. When you want to get to leads and being more dialed in, you can do that. But I also think that's a secondary thing. I would carve out the $500 a month, put it on Google ads, maybe even get up to 600, 700, then probably stop there. And then what I would do is when I have more access money because of that, I would invest more into marketing. It's never a bad idea to invest more in marketing, ever. Right? So the goal is to try and keep yourself on a budget where you're not getting smoked, but also at the same time, like if you're making a bunch of money and you're deciding to spend it on other things like vacation, things like that, and wondering why you're not growing and you're not past that 1 million mark per year, it's because you're not spending enough money on marketing. And the first thing I would do is scale back other things in your life so you can invest it into more marketing. That simple.
Totally agreed. All right. Well, with
Cool.
that, class is now out of
Soapbox.
session, my friend. I love it.
Soapbox episode. I love it.
All right, man.
Good
We are
man.
out. Have a good one.
You too. See ya.
See you.